the relationship graph. And this is probably my all-time favorite coaching tool. It's super simple. You can do it like that. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. If you don't mind, in a moment, I'm going to stop sharing my screen after I've explained it to you and I'm going to draw it. The relationship graph can be used to explore absolutely anything. And I actually used it yesterday in a coaching supervision session to explore the theme of confidence. Today, I'm going to ask you to think about using it not with a person, but actually an organisation. What I'm noticing now as a coach and as a tutor is that so many people are experiencing change in their organisation, change in ways of working, sometimes brought on by AI. It can feel a little bit challenging at times. And if your organisation is going through significant change or transformation and you're seeing an impact on the values or the purpose of the organisation, it's easy to fall out with it. The relationship graph is a great way to get some perspective on a relationship, whether it's with a person or an entity, and actually get a little bit of wider perspective. So you're not just focused in the here and now, you're actually stepping back and seeing the bigger picture. And here's how it works. It's a tool that can be used to help somebody get perspective, identify highs and lows, stay in the objective and adult, but also really importantly, stay away from idealizing some behaviors or demonizing them. They always do this to me. This is rubbish because the relationship graph firmly keeps you in an adult position of exploration and noticing. And for those of you who mentor, coach, or lead people in teams, this can be a brilliant tool to have in your leadership toolkit or your mentoring or coaching toolkit. You simply ask the person to draw a graph. And the scale, which is on the vertical, normally indicates a positive rating or a negative rating. It might be satisfaction, it might be happiness. And then the axis across the bottom, the horizontal, is simply time. And you ask the person that you're working with just to draw a graph to represent over a period of time what the relationship has been like. You're looking for positive and negative events. You're looking for the person completing the graph just thinking whatever pops into their mind. You're asking them not to edit, just draw it, just see where you go with this. And as a coach, if I'm working with somebody and we're completing a relationship graph, I might be saying to them, what do you notice? Are there any memorable events? Were there any misunderstandings, any incidents? And I'm working with them without judgment or any kind of intellectualization. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment and I'm simply going to show you the relationship graph. So I will say to the client, first of all, obviously, have you got pen and paper? And then I will ask them to draw a graph with two axes. So the bottom one is time. And then the vertical one is, it might be happiness, it might be satisfaction, it might be something else. It can be whatever they want to call it. But here, just for purposes of simplicity, I'm going to suggest that this is positive. And this might be less positive, it might be negative. And I'll say to the person that I'm working with, if they're thinking about their relationship, imagine that this time axis represents maybe just before you join the organisation, where you are now, and maybe takes you into the future. So it might take you into 27. And I'll say, I'm going to ask you to just plot where you were when you joined the organisation. You might say, do you know what? I was really happy to join the organisation. I was here. And then once I started, there was a bit of a dip because it was a bit tough at first, but you build a network and contacts and it gets better. And I will just simply ask them to plot what they've noticed, what their experience of being in the organisation has been, what their relationship, whether it's positive or negative, with that organisation has looked like on a draft. And then once they've done that, and this might be 26 here, I might even say to them, okay, where do you want it to be? And they'll probably say, do you know what? It's dropped a bit now because we're in this big transformation and things have changed. And I'm not quite sure where my place in the world is, but I'd like to step back. And so I can work with the person in front of me to say, what do you notice about the peaks? What do you notice about the troughs? How did you get out of being in that low point? Who was around you? What tools did you need? What help did you get? And then just simply move through, noticing what we notice. And by the end of using this tool, hopefully people have maybe gathered a little bit of information about what they need to be able to step out of a place of feeling quite negative and be able to plan to perhaps reconnect with the organisation. The one thing that it definitely does is show that where they are now, against the grand scheme of things, is simply a moment in time. So, the second one of our tools. Hopefully you had time, you might have drawn your own or started to think about your own relationship, perhaps with your organisation or perhaps with something else. As I said, it can be used for a relationship with a person, an individual, or it can simply be used to think about a relationship with an entity or an organisation, whatever works for you.